What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you some GLS content today, as well as Splinterlands, because these two things are still very much tied together and may forever be very much tied together. So welcome to the channel. We also stream here every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. Okay, so I wanted to talk about GLS today and something that Hardpoint specifically had mentioned in the town hall last week during the major announcement, and why I believe that's, again, and I'm speculating here because I don't have any inside information, but one of the major topics, let me just take a step back. One of the major things that people have been bringing up that I've seen in the comments, and it's a lot of like negative or skeptic, and I get it, I understand, is, oh, here's another game for bots to just come and dominate and farm rewards, and it's just going to be whales who come through and set up these bots. I think, or at least I believe, that there is going to be a solution to this, or at least the Splinterlands team is thinking very, very differently about how the gameplay for MLS will be. Now, GLS will be. Now, the thing is, GLS, we don't know what the gameplay is going to be like, but I would not be surprised to see a lot of the elements very similar to Splinterlands. Obviously, it's going to be sports related, sports themed. The cards are going to be of actual players, and so it's not, it's going to be different in its own right. But obviously, a lot of the mechanics may end up being based on the way Splinterlands does things. So here's my theory. Right. And I'm just kind of putting it out there. And the reason I brought up Hardpoint was because in the town hall, he mentioned, again, very vaguely, but I'll explain how I kind of draw some conclusions from this. He said that one of the exciting things from a development or engineering or just overall standpoint with GLS, one of the exciting things that they'll be able to do is go in and try to innovate or create some new things or do some new things within the GLS platform, the GLS game, that they can then take back into Splinterlands. And again, it was very high level, very vague. And so the point of what he was trying to say is, there's a lot that they can do because Splinterlands is very complex. It's a very huge system now that has hundreds of thousands of daily active accounts playing. And so you can't, it's hard to steer very quickly a giant ship. Whereas if it's a small boat that's just getting started, you can go in and adjust some things from the very beginning or set those things up before the game even launches. So what am I getting at here? How do you disincentivize bots? How do you create a style of gameplay that will be complex for bots and maybe hopefully impossible for bots, but easy for humans, at least from a mechanical standpoint, not from a strategy standpoint. And that takes me to land, right? Land within Splinterlands. Everybody's looking at land as potentially being this bot defeating thing, right? Because there will be other elements involved, and now there will be two phases of the game. So when I say other elements, there's going to be other NFTs such as items and spells. And then you will also have a second phase of the game. So now this is turning more into a turn-based style game, which is very difficult for bots to handle with a game as complex as Splinterlands, right? Because there's so many different ways that things can play out. There's so many different strategies, so many different abilities. It's not like chess, right, where there's this preset defined number of moves and type of moves that you can make. It's very complex in a good way, right? Because when you're playing, it's a lot of fun. And this takes me back to like traditional card games. I have experience with Magic the Gathering. I think it'd be very difficult for a bot to play Magic the Gathering. Sure, it could, but that would require a lot of programming, and it would require it to be very good at the same time. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm just saying what we suffered from in Splinterlands was the sheer number and brute force of bots, right? And now the economy changes that have gone through where they need to own cards, but not just own cards. They need to have a good win rate because their ECR matters in order to get reward shares. They don't just have to play or win 5 games with the same Splinter every single day and come away with a reward. It's very different. It's very difficult. And I think basically doubling and this is a linear way to look at it, it's probably more exponential, but doubling the number of rounds or phases that you have to, assess the lineup and then submit is going to make the game significantly more complicated. So where does GLS fit into all this? Well, GLS doesn't have to worry about land being the thing that brings in a second phase. You think about where GLS is now, and which is essentially at the ground level, and you could set up a game that offers 2 or multiple phases on the front end, right? Because there's no context for this yet. Sure, you're gonna have a lot of Splinterlands players coming in, but for their target demographic, which is anybody who follows MLS or anybody who follows soccer or football around the world that wants to get into a game like this, well, they can come in and play the game without having any context of what Splinterlands is, and as long as they can easily understand it, pick it up, and then get the strategy and going from there, they'll be golden. So you create this 2, maybe 3-step process where you put your players out on the field, and then you have to set the strategy after you see the opponent's lineup, and then maybe there's a halftime, right? You could think about it in a lot of different ways that are related to football/soccer. So the way I think about that is okay, let's say you do base it very similarly on Splinterlands. You got a 2.5 minute timer for Splinterlands, at which point you can watch a game play out, usually in a minute or so. Now, what you can do is you add in, so you do this 2.5 minute timer, and then maybe you add in another minute or minute and a half of once you see the field, or maybe once certain elements of the game have played out, you can go in and be the coach, right? And maybe sub players out. There you go, right? Imagine halfway through a battle in Splinterlands, you could sub a monster out for another one that you had. It could be game changing, right? But it doesn't make sense in the context of Splinterlands as we know it, because it's so ingrained in us. But when you think about soccer, or when you think about football, if imagine you're in game and there's a halftime where you can go in and actually change the cards that you have on the field, right? Maybe replace some of the cards that you have on the field. Again, it would keep the game if you have a 2.5 minute period, 2.5 minute thing, and then maybe that plays out for a minute, and then you do another minute or minute and a half. You could keep these games to 5-6 minutes, and while that is double the time of what Splinterlands currently is, that's not long in the grand scheme of things. People play games that are much longer than that. And so if you could have this quick feedback loop where somebody can play 2 rounds of this game, or a game of 2 rounds within 5 to 6 minutes, it's still very addictive, right? It's still very okay, well, let me go through, let me play it. And if there's a skip button, well, then now all of a sudden they can play it a bunch of times, right? If somebody's just there trying to get their daily quest done or daily training done, according to sports or whatever, daily practice, daily training, whatever. So I'm excited about that. I think, again, this is all just speculation, but I think a lot of the bot fears are somewhat unfounded. And I get it, because I know we've been burned so badly in Splinterlands, but I do think the team has learned a tremendous amount over the past year in terms of how to approach this and how to design an economy, and then also how to design a game now, right, from a gameplay standpoint, where they can go in and not have to make massive changes to an already existing system, but set it up from the get-go and make it something that is viable, easy to understand, and complex enough where humans will get it, but it'll make it much more difficult for a bot to go in and program all of the different possibilities. Now, again, I'm not anti-bot, and I think if this GLS game ends up being something that's in the same vein of decentralization for, the same way that Splinterlands is, then I would expect the team to still have a very open stance on bots that are able to go in and play and compete and succeed, right? But I would think that with the massive amount of potential people who could come into the space through this game, I don't think they're as worried about bots, right? I think that at this point, they want to create an awesome game that can't be manipulated, that will take a lot of the lessons that they've learned along the way, both economy and game mechanics, and implement that from the start and go to their partner, the MLSPA, Major League Soccer, and offer something awesome to the fan base. So again, I'm looking at this maybe with some rose-colored glasses here, but I'm trying to explain why I'm not as worried about this and why I think a lot of the fears right now are unfounded. Again, we don't even know what the gameplay looks like, so this is all speculation, whether it's good speculation like me or bad speculation like folks who have been coming through in the comments. And again, I understand, but that's why I understand why people feel that way. But I'm just trying to say, like, take my comments, take their comments, all with a grain of salt, because we don't know what we're talking about. But I'm trying to present the positive aspect of it, and I hope that the team has already been looking at it in this way. And if they haven't, then somebody sent them this video. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure they've been looking at it in this way and, have really thought through all of the areas in which they have misstepped in the past and are trying to improve on that for future projects such as this GLS one. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. I just wanted to share that perspective with you, get your thoughts on it, maybe hear what you're thinking of in terms of how they could mitigate bot accounts or automated accounts from ruining the game, as many people say. And I'm sorry, I know I put the quotes there. I don't mean to dismiss it, right? Because there are definitely things like win trading for sure that we don't want to see, right? And that's very much anti the spirit of the game. So it's just when people kind of label everything with just like, okay, bots are going to destroy everything. Again, I do think that the team has done a tremendous job changing that reality for Splinterlands, and I do think that they're going to take all the lessons that they've learned and do a fantastic job with GLS. And GLS might have its own problems here and there and other exploits that can come in and be taken advantage of, but there's a lot of really great things happening right now, and I would expect the team to clamp down and make updates and changes much more quickly than what we've seen, at least in the first half of this year, when they were getting pretty much the entire team onboarded at that time. So that's all I have. Have an amazing rest of your day. I will catch you all in the next video, and I will see you around the game. Take care.